From the Presidential Palace, Manila, Dateline Malacañang.
Good day. This is Dateline Malacañang in review. Malacañang on Monday announced that President Ferdinand R. Marcos Jr. has appointed Rafael Consing Jr. as President and Chief Executive Officer or CEO of the Maharlika Investment Corporation or MIC. Consing currently holds the position of Executive Director of the Office of the Presidential Advisor for Investment and Economic Affairs or OPAIEA, where he oversees the day-to-day operations, driving the timely delivery of investment projects and providing policy recommendations to advance the President's investment and economic agenda. Prior to government service, Consing worked for various private sector establishments, including Senior Vice President and Chief Financial Officer of the International Container Terminal Services Incorporated, Managing Director roles at HSBC Hong Kong and HSBC Singapore, and Vice President and Treasurer for Aboitiz and Company Incorporated and Aboitiz Equity Ventures Incorporated. He also held positions at Bankers Trust Company and Multinational Bank Corporation, where he gained invaluable experience in investment banking, derivatives, and corporate finance. Created under Republic Act or RA number 11954, the Maharlika Investment Corporation serves as the primary vehicle for mobilizing and utilizing the Maharlika Investment Fund or MIF for investments in transactions aimed at generating optimal returns on investments or ROIs. The President and CEO, appointed by the President of the Philippines for a term of 3 years, will ensure that MIC continues to make significant contributions to the nation's long-term economic prosperity.
Dateline Malacañang.
Philippine President Ferdinand R. Marcos Jr. on Tuesday graced the inaugural Bangsamoro Autonomous Region in Muslim Mindanao or BARM Local Legislative General Assembly at the Acacia Hotel in Davao City. The event commemorates the sense of unity and empowerment fostered by the enactment of the BARM Organic Law or RA 11054 on July 26, 2018. This legislative milestone nationally acknowledges the legitimacy of the Bangsamoro people's cause and upholds the rights of Muslim and tribal Filipinos in Mindanao. In his speech, the President said that this gathering is crucial to obtain the country's goals of peace and progress, especially the BARM government, so that they may improve the socio-economic condition of the Bangsamoro people. Let's listen to the speech of Philippine President Ferdinand R. Marcos Jr. at the inaugural Bangsamoro Autonomous Region in Muslim Mindanao or BARM Local Legislative General Assembly.
I extend my heartfelt greetings to the esteemed leaders convened here today at this inaugural BARM Local Legislative General Assembly. Your presence here and the holding of this assembly signifies that the spirit of cooperation and unity runs strong amongst our BARM leaders. I recognize, of course, the Vice Mayor's League of the Philippines and the BARM Ministry of Interior and Local Government for organizing this event. The insights and initiatives that will transpire from this discussion are crucial to our goal of achieving peace and progress in our nation and in BARM governments. As you use this platform to assess the challenges in the implementation of the Organic Act for the BARM, you also explore the various collaborations that will improve the socio-economic condition of the Bangsamoro people. It is very important, and the simplicity of your ceremonies here today belies the importance of what we are opening today. It is a landmark day. It is a historic day. It is historic and it is a landmark day because it is a measure of the progress that we have made over so many decades as we have strived for peace. We have made some false starts. We have come to some successes, but we have never come this far. But it also reminds us how much work there still needs to be done. The organization of a new regional autonomous government is something that we still have to learn about. It is something that we still have to study with the experiences of other people, other countries around the world. And that was very much part of the discussion when we were talking about how we were going to form the autonomous region, the government for the autonomous region, the parliamentary, the fusion, as our minister has explained earlier, the fusion of the legislative and the executive, how that is going to work, how we will conceptualize it, how we will operationalize it. That is the job that you have before you today. To all our BARM leaders, I assure you that this administration's unwavering support for the development agenda to achieve sustainable and peaceful self-governance. I am on my way today. Later on today, I am going to San Francisco, to the United States, to attend the Asia Pacific Economic Conference. And that is a very important thing that I have to do. But I insisted on coming here today and to make time to remind all of you that this is an important day, and it is important not only to BARM, but it is important to the entire Republic of the Philippines. I have said it before, but I will say it again. I have never recognized a Mindanao problem. Whatever problem is in Mindanao is a Philippine problem, and that is why it requires efforts of all government to make sure that BARM will be a success in the future. With the activation of all 7 mechanisms of the Intergovernmental Relations Body, a very important, there are 7 offices that now have been put together that will serve as the basis for all the policies, all the laws that you will put together, that the Parliament will put together, even the rules and regulations for how the executive will execute those rules, those laws that the Parliament will enact. So this is the beginning of that process of creating the institutions that we all know are necessary, so that we are not dependent on one group. We are not dependent on certain individuals alone. We are dependent on the institutions that will continue to work no matter what happens in the political sphere. It is not an effort that is only happening in BARM. It is also a process that we are endorsing, promoting, and encouraging in the national government to strengthen our institutions. But there lies the way forward. There lies the way to a safe, progressive, and resilient future. The national and Bangsamoro governments will now have greater cooperation because of these offices that have now been established. We will have greater cooperation, greater coordination, and we will converge towards the realization of our shared endeavors. I am also pleased to report that during the recent visit of Prime Minister Fumio Kishida of Japan, We signed and exchanged the diplomatic notes on the non-project grant aid for the acquisition of $6.8 million worth of construction equipment for road network improvement and disaster quick response operation in BARM. That is Japan. We have continued in our contacts around in the trips that I have taken for the government, especially when we are talking to the OIC, when we are talking to Malaysia, when we are talking to other Islamic countries. We continue to remind them that BARM still needs their support. And I have to say to their credit that they have pledged that support and will continue to support BARM. And that is an important part of the success that BARM is going to have. Because with these initiatives, we will usher in a new era where BARM becomes a shining beacon of sustainable development in Mindanao and the rest of the Philippines. We venture together on this collective journey. I invite each and every Filipino to significantly take part in forging our path of progress, of inclusivity, and prosperity for the Bangsamoro region and the entire nation. We have already made our first steps. All we have to do is to continue what we have started to make sure that we never waver in our determination to succeed. Thank you, and may this assembly be a source of inspiration and productive discourse for us all.
You just heard the speech of Philippine President Ferdinand R. Marcos Jr. at the inaugural Bangsamoro Autonomous Region in Muslim Mindanao or BARM Local Legislative General Assembly in Davao City.
Dateline Malacañang.
Philippine President Ferdinand R. Marcos Jr. on Tuesday evening departed for a 6-day working visit to the United States to participate in the 30th Asia-Pacific Economic Cooperation, or APEC, Chief Executive Officer or CEO Summit. In his departure speech, the President said he will witness the signing of several agreements, whether government-to-government or public-private partnerships and business agreements, a few months after undergoing negotiations. The agreement covered nuclear energy, artificial intelligence for weather forecasting, health sciences, particularly in cancer research and prevention, as well as agreement on satellite connectivity, among others. President Marcos was also invited to be the keynote speaker, in which the chief executive will share the experience of the Philippines in making sure of inclusivity while pursuing the path to green economy. The Philippine President also mentioned on meeting with the Filipino community in 3 cities in the United States. Let's listen to the departure speech of Philippine President Ferdinand R. Marcos Jr.
My visit to the United States is on the invitation of President Joe Biden to participate in the 30th APEC Economic Leaders Meeting and related activities in San Francisco. It is my honor to represent the Philippines in the region's most important platform for trade, investment, and economic cooperation. The APEC region hosts 38% of the world's population, 48% of its trade, and 62% of its GDP. The largest segment of our OFWs call this region their second home. 85% of our trade and our top investors are from this region. I bring with me your hopes and aspirations for a peaceful and prosperous Asia-Pacific region where we live. This year, the U.S. chairmanship of APEC set the cross-cutting themes of sustainability, inclusiveness, and resilience as our priority work so that we can build a resilient and interconnected region that advances broad-based economic prosperity, enable an innovative environment to foster a sustainable future, and affirm an equitable and inclusive future for all, for every single Filipino. The U.S. APEC theme of creating a sustainable and resilient future for all aligns with our national and economic interest to transform the Philippines towards a sustainable future para ang lahat ng Pilipino ay magkaroon ng matatag, maginhawa at panatag na buhay. Our APEC work has been focused to prioritize and secure beneficial trade and investment, quality and green jobs, human development, and poverty alleviation. We will be engaging with the leaders of economies of the Asia-Pacific region to agree on how we can achieve food and energy security, economic inclusion of our micro, small, and medium enterprises, women, indigenous people, and other segments of our economy whose potential remains to be unlocked through digitalization and innovation and sustainable development and addressing the climate change crisis. I will meet with business leaders and conduct roundtable discussions on the APEC sidelines to once again invite investments to seek business opportunities, promote our exports, and discuss our economic agenda. At the APEC CEO Summit, which is the annual gathering of top CEOs from across the APEC region, I have been invited to deliver the keynote remarks on intentional equity in sustainability, to share the Philippine experience in ensuring inclusivity on our path to bringing a green economy to the Philippines. There will be several engagements with private sector representatives from the APEC Business Advisory Council, or ABAC, to discuss how we can use public-private partnerships to fulfill our agenda in innovative and sustainable development, finance, and economic and business reform. This trip marks my third visit to the United States as part of our continuing effort to further reinforce our already strong bond, and a follow-through to my official working visit in Washington, D.C. last May, where we underscored the need of forging closer economic ties and ensuring that our bilateral friendship and relationship works for both our peoples. On the sidelines of the APEC Summit, I expect to witness the signing of a number of government-to-government, public-private, and business agreements which have been under negotiation over the past several months, covering priority sectors such as nuclear energy, artificial intelligence to support weather forecasting, health sciences, particularly cancer research, diagnosis, treatment, and prevention, pharmaceutical manufacturing, and satellite connectivity. As with my previous visits, I expect to meet with American business leaders to further promote trade and investment opportunities here in the Philippines. Our economic team and I will be joined by a high-profile business delegation in exploring new and expanding partnerships. From San Francisco, I will also be going to Los Angeles, California, and Honolulu, Hawaii. I look forward to meeting the Filipino communities there in all three cities. California and Hawaii have the largest concentrations of Filipinos and Filipino Americans, home to almost half of the 4.2 million Filipinos in the United States, who serve as the bedrock of our bilateral relations. Mga kababayan, since the start of my administration, we have not wavered in our promise of not leaving anyone behind, and for a resilient Philippines, where the fruits of our hard work are equitably shared by all.
You just heard the departure speech of Philippine President Ferdinand R. Marcos Jr. before heading to the 30th Asia-Pacific Economic Cooperation, or APEC, Leaders Summit in San Francisco, California.
Dateline Malacañang.
Philippine President Ferdinand R. Marcos Jr. on Wednesday thanked the overseas Filipinos in the United States for creating a positive image of the Philippines and of the Filipino people. During his meeting with the Filipino community in San Francisco, California, the President hailed the Filipinos residing and working in the U.S. for their vital role in revitalizing the Philippine economy. The U.S. is home to about 4.2 million Filipinos and Filipino Americans. President Marcos said Filipinos abroad, including overseas Filipino workers or OFWs, have an outstanding reputation because of their good traits. The chief executive hailed the Filipino nurses, doctors, first responders, and essential workers in the U.S. who have demonstrated the timeless Filipino virtues of compassion, companionship, and teamwork, especially at the height of the coronavirus disease 2019 pandemic. President Marcos noted that foreign countries are hiring Filipinos at every level, be it unskilled labor, skilled labor, or professional work, because they are known for being reliable, helpful, hardworking, and trustworthy. He assured the Filipino community in the U.S. that his administration is working hard to improve the lives of all Filipinos and pledged to ramp up the government's efforts to transform the Philippine economy and adjust it to the new global post-pandemic economy.
Dateline Malacañang.
Philippine President Ferdinand R. Marcos Jr. on Wednesday provided business leaders, analysts, and investors with the most significant updates and projections on the economic performance of the country during the Philippine Economic Briefing, or PEB, in San Francisco, California. Together with his economic team, the chief executive took the opportunity to introduce the administration's economic agenda for the Philippines at the City and County of San Francisco, which serves as the host of this year's Asia-Pacific Economic Cooperation, or APEC, Economic Leaders Week, or AELW. In his closing remarks, the President boasted the Philippine economy's growth in the third quarter of 2023 of 5.9%, outpacing its neighboring countries, including that of China's, and is confident that the country's full-year economic growth will be somewhere between 6 and 7%. Let's listen to the closing remarks of Philippine President Ferdinand R. Marcos Jr. at the Philippine Economic Briefing in San Francisco, California.
It is a pleasure for me to close another successful Philippine Economic Briefing, this time here in San Francisco, home to the biggest, most innovative, and future-ready companies in the world. This marks our 12th international PEB and it's the fourth one in the United States. Since the beginning of this administration in 2022, the Philippine Economic Briefings have been a platform for the economic team to showcase what makes the Philippines one of the best places to do today. By bringing conversations on the country's macroeconomic fundamentals, policy roadmap, and investment opportunities closer to the international business community, we aim to reintroduce the Philippines and jumpstart meaningful, concrete, and mutually beneficial partnerships that will drive growth in the 21st century economy. Equally important, this is a deliberate and proactive way for us to generate feedback from our investor stakeholders. We consider these suggestions from our partners as vital in our efforts to shape our policies and programs to support economic transformation and recovery. Over the past year, we embarked on a journey towards economic transformation grounded on sound macroeconomic fundamentals, a favorable business climate, and agile risk management. More than 1 year on, in an uncertain global environment beset by slower growth, supply chain disruptions, and geopolitical tensions, the Philippines has continued to rise above the tide. In 2022, the Philippines registered its highest full-year GDP growth in nearly 5 decades. Just last week, we announced that the Philippine economy grew strongly by 5.9% in the third quarter of 2023, bringing our growth for the first 3 quarters of the year to 5.5%. This is the fastest growth amongst major economies in Asia, outpacing Vietnam, Indonesia, China, and Malaysia. We are confident that the country will post a full-year economic growth that is close to the 6 to 7% target for 2023. Major international financial institutions and think tanks, including the World Bank, the International Monetary Fund, ASEAN Plus 3 Macroeconomic Research Office, agree. They project that the Philippines will outpace its major regional peers. In fact, Fitch Rating recently affirmed the stable outlook for the Philippines. This is on the back of strong growth, gradual fiscal consolidation, reductions in government debt to GDP ratio, and a comfortable external position supported by sound economic policies and robust economic reforms. Labor market conditions remain strong. We have been seeing consistently low levels of unemployment and improving quality of employment and underemployment that has been lessened and employment that has been generated. Inflation is slowly coming down. The October 2023 inflation slowed down to 4.9% from a frighteningly high 6.1% in September. We are committed to arresting inflation and maintaining overall price stability through supply-side interventions and demand-side management measures. This administration has put a favorable business environment at the center of our thrust to promote high-value investments. Commitment to purposeful reforms are also an enduring feature of Philippine economic policy making and planning. With the amendments that we have made to the Public Service Act, to the Foreign Investments Act, the Retail Trade Liberalization Act, and the Renewable Energy Act, we expect an influx of highly desirable investments in strategic sectors of the economy. We have also reformed the Philippines' fiscal incentive structure through the Corporate Recovery and Tax Incentives for Enterprises, or the CREATE Act, to attract both domestic and global firms to invest in strategically important sectors. Investments in rural areas and highly advanced technology and technology-enabled projects and activities are given top priority and consequently greater and longer incentives. Investments in the digital space are also highly prioritized. Incentives are given to projects covering research and development, and those adopting advanced digital production technologies such as, for example, artificial intelligence, additive manufacturing, data analytics, cloud computing, and nanotechnology. These are complemented by responsive refinements in policies that promote private sector participation in key sectors, even as we pursue legislative measures. We rapidly reformed the country's public-private partnership framework to simplify the approval processes, ensure the viability and bankability of PPP projects, to cut the red tape, and pave the way for quality infrastructure development. These reforms support the Philippines' massive infrastructure drive. We are prioritizing the implementation of 197 infrastructure flagship projects worth around $155 billion with a sharp focus on upgrading physical and digital connectivity, water, agriculture, health, transport, and energy. In addition, we look forward to the operationalization of the Maharlika Investment Fund, the country's first ever sovereign investment fund. It will serve as an additional source and mode of financing for priority projects of the government, including the infrastructure flagship. These projects offer high rates of return and significant socio-economic impact. Currently, we have identified about 80 potential infrastructure projects that are financeable through that fund, the Maharlika Investment Fund. With a solid reform agenda and unabating growth amid headwinds, the Philippines is ready to take off as a leading investment hub in Asia. A wealth of opportunity awaits you in the Philippines, and we are ready to explore new horizons with your investments in the coming years. Welcome to the Philippines.
You just heard the speech of Philippine President Ferdinand R. Marcos Jr. at the Philippine Economic Briefing in San Francisco, California.
Dateline Malacañang.
Philippine President Ferdinand R. Marcos Jr. on Wednesday witnessed the signing of several agreements from partners in the United States, both with the government and some private sector, on the sidelines of his attendance at the 30th Asia-Pacific Economic Cooperation or APEC Leaders Meeting and related activities in San Francisco, California. Among these agreements are a Memorandum of Understanding between the Department of Science and Technology, or DOST, and Atmo Incorporated to build a high-resolution weather forecasting system for the Philippines using artificial intelligence, or AI technology. It was signed by DOST Undersecretary Maridon Sahagun, and Atmo Incorporated founder and Chief Executive Officer, or CEO, Alexander Levy. A cooperation agreement was also signed between Ayala Corporation President and CEO Jaime Augusto Zobel de Ayala and Ayala Corporation Health CEO and President Paulo Borromeo. Varian Philippines President and Managing Director Heinz Michael Horst Smyrmer, and Advanced Oncology Solutions Varian Vice President Chuck Lindley. In his speech after the signing, the President said that these agreements hold a huge potential to reshape the Philippines landscape in various sectors. Let's listen to the speech of Philippine President Ferdinand R. Marcos Jr.
It is a good experience always to come and officiate, shall we say, or witness the agreements that we have come with our partners, some government to government and some on the private sector. They all hold potential, a great potential for the Philippines to reshape its landscape of clean energy, healthcare, pharmaceutical manufacturing, internet and satellite technology, and climate technology. The partnerships we celebrate today are manifest that of the unwavering commitment of the United States and the Philippines in terms of collaboration, innovation, and progress. The Philippines is one of the countries most affected by typhoons, with an annual average of 20 typhoons that bring heavy flooding and cause billions of pesos in damage to infrastructure, to agriculture, and to people's lives. ATMO and the Department of Science and Technology partnership on an AI-powered weather forecasting system will help the Philippines build its climate resilience. Astranis and Orbits have also joined forces to bring internet connectivity to unserved and underserved areas in the Philippines. This $400 million partnership will help bridge the digital divide and foster our digital transformation in the Philippines. In the energy sector, USNC and Meralco are undertaking a pre-feasibility study on micro-modular reactors, and this partnership is a significant step towards exploring clean and sustainable energy options for the Philippines. It is aligned with our commitment to reduce greenhouse gas emissions and to increase resilience to climate change. In the pharmaceutical sector, Lloyd Laboratories and Diffgen Pharmaceuticals have formed a joint venture for the product development and export of pharmaceutical products to the U.S. It is a significant step towards expanding the country's local production and promoting a competitive and robust local pharmaceutical industry. In the healthcare sector, AC Health and Varian have embarked on a groundbreaking partnership to improve access to quality cancer care in the Philippines. This initiative is a vital stride in the fight against cancer, and it reflects the Philippines' growing potential as a healthcare destination in Asia. What we have witnessed today will bring us closer to our vision of a more prosperous and sustainable Philippines. It is also a product of the lessons that we learned during the pandemic, and as you can see, the focus has been on the weaknesses that came to the fore in our systems, healthcare, be it healthcare, energy, supply chains, all of these areas where we feel that where we identified weaknesses and gaps in our systems, and we are trying to address those. We see the potential of these undertakings to provide skilled jobs and entrepreneurship opportunities for Filipinos, better access to healthcare and digital education, attainment of climate, food, and energy security. In recent years as well, we have taken steps to create a more conducive environment for private sector investment and growth. These include streamlining business registration processes, investing in infrastructure and human capital development, and implementing the Corporate Recovery and Tax Incentives for Enterprises, or CREATE Act, which creates a transparent, targeted, and performance-based incentive system in our country. These efforts have paid off for the Philippines, as we have become one of the fastest-growing economies in Asia. The private sector has played a key role in this growth, generating 90% of jobs in the country. The private sector is also at the forefront of technological innovation in the Philippines. So I want to thank all the partners involved in these initiatives for their commitment, their dedication, and their far-reaching vision. We are committed to providing the necessary resources to ensure the success of these partnerships. I look forward to the realization of these plans and the benefits it will bring to our countries.
Philippine President Ferdinand R. Marcos Jr.
Dateline Malacañang.
Philippine President Ferdinand R. Marcos Jr. on Wednesday addressed his fellow world leaders and the global business community at the Asia-Pacific Economic Cooperation, or APEC, Chief Executive Officer, or CEO Summit in San Francisco, California. The APEC CEO Summit brings together CEOs, entrepreneurs, thought leaders, senior political leaders, and other stakeholders from the Asia-Pacific region for a business dialogue on global opportunities and challenges that shape the economic, environmental, and societal trends in the region. In his opening remarks, the Philippine President emphasized that in order to sustain prosperity and progress, the world should be at peace, built on solid economic foundation. Let's listen to the opening remarks of Philippine President Ferdinand R. Marcos Jr.
With our distinguished panel, I am pleased to join all of you this morning as I commend our host, chair, and organizers, the U.S., ABAC US, and CAPC, for holding this APEC CEO Summit at such a critical time for our region. Our resolve to gather today is already testament to our commitment to improve the lives of the people of our region. We meet at a challenging time when bleak forecasts loom over the progress we have made since the pandemic. As member economies of APEC, we are accountable to our people and future generations to deliver sustained growth and prosperity. And while signs point to darker clouds, this opportunity to collaborate once more is light in the economic horizon in our efforts to preempt a prolonged downturn and its very negative consequences. My biggest learning from the COVID-19 pandemic is that it disproportionately affected our already disadvantaged, marginalized, and underrepresented sectors. What this ensuing recovery period should teach us is how to address the cracks and lacks in our policies and systems, and what the challenges of today, including food, energy, security, digital and green transformation, and certainly climate change, climate action, present an opportunity to do this right, to ensure that no one is left behind in the pursuit of our economic and financial goals. The economic model and international trading system that we have worked for, that has worked for us for decades, and have, even for APEC region alone, resulted in heightened economic growth and lifted millions and millions out of poverty. These are now getting undermined by criticisms due to apparent and exacerbating gaps. Strengthening the system that has led to our cooperation and development must entail addressing the core issues and areas for improvement, which are, from the perspective of the Philippines, and most, if not all, of our economies, distributing wealth and welfare effects more effectively and equitably, to ensure that our economies develop in a manner that is resilient, sustainable, and mitigates negative externalities. These are of paramount importance because we can only be as strong as the weakest members of our economies, of our societies. Regardless of how much progress we make in these halls, if such does not translate to a better quality of life about resiliency for all, we will remain derailed by even the most subtle of shocks and insecurities that are beyond our control. But equally important is the recognition of the key roles and contributions these groups have made in our transition and will make in our continuing transition. They do not only provide the most important voice in terms of the bare minimum that we should be according, but also knowledge, skills, and talents so far untapped or underutilized in our efforts, especially towards the circular economy, environmental preservation and protection, utilizing indigenous sources and nature-based solutions, and adopting sustainable practices. Disadvantaged groups should also be capacitated and empowered to assist and align with our strategies to ensure bandwagon support for sustainability and an expeditious and decisive push essential in the carving of a collectively beneficial path forward. Cognizant that our priorities, our strategies, and approaches differ, platforms such as the APEC prove instrumental in finding policy congruences and coordination of our efforts. I see 5 elements that are critical to this. First, our table must continue to expand to accommodate seats to represent all of our people, and the U.S. hosting of APEC this year has expertly demonstrated how this should be done through stakeholder engagements, policy dialogues, and expert consultations. But as decision makers, ours is the role to take heed and constructively discuss how to stitch our differing contexts together and multi-directional approaches so they move as one. For the Philippines, a just energy transition will focus not only on workers and communities that will be affected by geography-based and socio-economic strategies, but also on the large segment of micro, small, and medium enterprises that make up 99.5% of our businesses and that continue to rely on dependable, accessible, and affordable energy. The nuances in our push are also informed by the needs of vulnerable segments of our population, including those who do essential work in the functioning of our supply chains, such as maritime and healthcare workers, whom we owe the assurance of international equity in the sustainable transition of their respective industries. Second, the partnership of our governments with stakeholders, especially the business sector, must both broaden in scope and deepen in commitments. International equity calls for moving away from traditional mere shared financing to formulating frameworks and adopting models that will enable the mainstreaming of sustainable practices in an inclusive manner. Examples include sharing of aggregated consumer data from industries to enable evidence-based and scalable public programs and projects, recalibration and standardization of reporting structures and assessment templates to take stock of our progress in an equitable and sustainable growth, and not least, collaboration on the development of environmental, social, and governance, responsible business conduct, and good regulatory practices, and other partnership frameworks that will balance profit and prosperity with our accountability to the environment and our people, and help ensure that not one group is adversely affected. This administration's partnership with the Philippines Private Sector Advisory Council forges a collaborative environment that more easily generates jobs and pursues future-ready, inclusive, and sustainable industrialization. Third, the race to sustainability comes with the risk of escalating protectionism. As economies embrace new technologies, temptations abound to push for one's own profit from the development of these technologies or to discriminate imports from those deemed non-compliant to environmental standards. Those have deleterious effects to not only our supply chains, but will also further exclude our people, especially our small-scale producers, suppliers, and exporters, from participating in global value chains and thereby limiting their participation in the production and distribution of products and services that facilitate our sustainable transition. Developing economies and our people are most at risk of such alienation, and instead we must intensify capacity building, economic cooperation, and technical assistance, knowledge and data sharing among our economies so that each is empowered and provided with the tools towards sustainable development, while creating complementarities in our economies and further opportunities for trade and investment. Fourth, markets should be left to operate as optimally as we can. But where they fail, government needs to intervene, and economic reforms should be used to increase the effectiveness of provision of services, redistribute benefits aimed at reducing inequalities and increasing living standards, and strengthening our economic foundations to resist shocks and crises and further stimulate growth. The Philippine Development Plan through to 2028 induces the economic and social transformation of our economy to accelerate poverty reduction and reinvigorate job creation by steering it to a high growth trajectory, including by maximizing opportunities in the green and digital economies, especially for our untapped sectors. We have made much progress by universalizing and increasing access to many of our basic and social services throughout the years. This year alone, through the Philippines Agrarian Emancipation Act, we have condoned more than 600,000 small farmers of loans amounting to more than $1 billion. This would allow the agricultural sector to develop, with farmers now having their own land, capacitated with profits and skills to assist in increasing productivity and modernizing the sector, while fueling sustainable rural development, themselves being the experts. The democratization of land and agriculture will not only strengthen and diversify our export market, but also, by building competition, help stave off protectionism. Policy dialogues, especially those that promote inclusion, should therefore remain an important tool in APEC to allow us to coordinate our efforts, learn from our individual experience, and facilitate convergences in our economies that will narrow the income divide, while affording especially developing economies with some policy space to identify and to explore priorities that are specific to each context. Finally, and probably the biggest challenge that we have is to increase the level of our ambition and enlarge the scope of our cooperation. The issues that we face, supply chain shocks, food and energy insecurity, natural disasters, health emergencies, the climate crisis, demand that we augment our efforts to address, mitigate, and preempt the negative economic impacts that they bring. Guiding us is the APEC Patrajaya Vision 2040, which itself recognizes that progress must be delivered not only in trade and investment liberalization and facilitation, but also in digitalization and innovation and the strong, balanced, secure, inclusive, and sustainable growth. In this regard, let us not waver in both implementing actions and initiatives from our various agreements and partnerships and identifying areas for further collaboration in pursuit of equitable development, including by ensuring that each one is provided with opportunities to participate in the regional and global economy and made resilient from burgeoning shocks. These are just a few ideas, and we have a panel here to guide us with their expert insights on a clear and pragmatic way forward. We must leverage APEC's core value propositions as the premier regional forum in the Asia-Pacific, incubator of innovative ideas, pathfinder for collaborative solutions to emerging trade issues, and a platform for forward-looking and responsive economic and trade policies. We must continue to build on APEC's partnership with the private sector and be more in sync with the APEC Business Advisory Council and our other stakeholders. We must act regionally. We must also shrink our intentions globally by finding coherence in our work streams with those of other economies of the world and other regional and international organizations. I wish to emphasize once more that global and regional economic governance platforms such as APEC are geared towards averting conflict because sustained prosperity and progress are only possible in a world that is at peace, which in turn must be a peace that is built on a solid economic foundation. Thank you for this opportunity to share my thoughts, and I wish you all a meaningful summit. Thank you. Mabuhay.
Philippine President Ferdinand R. Marcos Jr.
Dateline Malacañang.
The Singapore FinTech Festival, or SFF 2023, formally commenced its first day as the much-anticipated global event gathers more than 500 exhibitors from 134 countries to showcase the latest trends in the field of financial technology through meaningful discussions and partnerships in Singapore. One of the highlights of the SFF's first day is the participation of President Ferdinand R. Marcos Jr., who addressed festival participants through a hologram. According to the organizers, he is the first ever head of state to deliver a speech using this groundbreaking method since the festival started in 2016.
It is with great anticipation that I represent the Philippines and the Filipino people for this year's Singapore FinTech Festival. This year's event holds great significance not only for its implications in the development of our financial sector, but also for all the sectors that are looking forward to a brighter digital future. It will serve as a global platform for sharing learning and cooperation, essential elements in nurturing an inclusive and sustainable financial sector. In the Philippines, we remain committed to fostering an environment that promotes collaboration and propels the momentum of our digital transformation. Let us come together and harness the power of technology to create a more sustainable, inclusive, and prosperous world in this digital age.
The Philippines is also among the exhibitors at the event. debuting the Bagong Pilipinas Philippines Country Pavilion, which aims to showcase the country as an investment and digital hotspot. This is achieved through the collaborative efforts of FinTechAlliance.ph and the Presidential Communications Office, or PCO. The SFF 2023 is a 3-day event that runs from the 15th to the 17th of November and convenes leaders and experts in finance, technology, and public policy worldwide.
Dateline Malacañang.
Philippine President Ferdinand R. Marcos Jr. on Wednesday held a roundtable meeting with technology companies and venture capitalists, including Silicon Valley firms in San Francisco, California. During the meeting, the Philippine president admitted that the country lacks trained individuals in the fields of artificial intelligence, or AI, and cybersecurity, but said his administration has been focusing on the upskilling and reskilling of Filipino workers in order to keep up with the growing demand. Night Dragon Chief Executive Officer, or CEO, David DeWalt, said his company and other technology firms in the roundtable discussion are looking forward to bringing all the technologies, particularly generative AI, to the Philippines. DeWalt said the planned investments of the technology companies, including Night Dragon, would be beneficial to the Philippines, considering its young and powerful workforce. Night Dragon is a leading venture capital firm for cybersecurity, security, safety, and privacy. Visa Chief Executive Officer, or CEO, Ryan McInerney, said generative AI will be a leveling force for small businesses, noting that Filipinos now use the largest platforms to buy things online. He said generative AI will give micro businesses, nano businesses, and small businesses the tools and capabilities to provide Filipinos a rich shopping and commerce experience. The roundtable meeting was co-organized by DeWalt, Bain & Company CEO Emmanuel Maceda, Crescent Point Group Vice Chairperson Thomas Pompidou, and the Department of Trade and Industry, or DTI. Also present during the meeting were Microsoft Managing Director Michelle Gonzalez, Mandiant, a Google company, CEO Kevin Mandia, Group of the Government of Singapore Investment Corporation, or GIC head Chris Emmanuel, Plug and Play Venture CEO Saeed Amidi, Altimeter CEO Brad Gerstner, HP, formerly Hewlett-Packard CEO Enrique Lores, MasterCard Co-President Ling Hai, and Anthropic CEO Dario Amodei.
Dateline Malacañang.
The Philippines and the United States on Thursday signed at least 5 agreements on clean energy, healthcare, pharmaceutical production, internet connectivity, and climate technology. The agreements were signed on the sidelines of President Ferdinand R. Marcos Jr.'s participation in the 30th Asia-Pacific Economic Cooperation, or APEC, leaders meeting in San Francisco, California. After the signing of deals at the Ritz-Carlton Hotel in San Francisco, President Marcos said the agreements hold a great potential for the Philippines to reshape its landscape of clean energy, healthcare, pharmaceutical manufacturing, internet and satellite technology, and climate technology. Among the agreements signed that was witnessed by the President were the cooperation agreement between the Manila Electric Company, or Meralco, and the Ultra-Safe Nuclear Cooperation, or USNC, which will undertake a pre-feasibility study on micro-modular reactors, or MMRs, to explore clean and sustainable energy options in the country. a cooperation agreement between Ayala Group's AC Health with US-based Varian Medical Systems to improve access to quality cancer care in the Philippines by sharing their expertise in establishing and running the Philippines' first dedicated specialty oncology hospital. A joint venture agreement worth $20 million between Philippine company Lloyd Laboratories and US firm Difgen Pharmaceutic to boost the local production of medicines in the Philippines. An agreement between the Philippines satellite service provider Orbitz and California-based communication satellites operator Astranis for the deployment of the first 2 internet satellites to improve connectivity in remote areas in the Philippines was also signed, and a memorandum of agreement of leading artificial intelligence or AI meteorology company Atmo Incorporated with the Department of Science and Technology or DOST for the establishment of a high-resolution weather forecasting system for the Philippines using AI technology.
Dateline Malacañang.
And finally, Philippine President Ferdinand R. Marcos Jr. on Thursday said he had a meeting with United States Vice President Kamala Harris regarding the Philippine assessment on the situation in the West Philippine Sea or WPS. President Marcos stressed the Philippines continuously tries to maintain the peace in the region with the help of the Philippine Coast Guard, the Philippine military, and the entire government. The Philippine president said he will get the view of President Xi Jinping during their meeting and discuss on what can be done to bring down the temperature to not escalate the situation in the West Philippine Sea. During the president's meeting with the U.S. Vice President, the two leaders reaffirmed the strength of the Philippine-U.S. alliance and reiterated their shared commitment to uphold international rules and norms, including in the South China Sea. The meeting was the 5th between the U.S. Vice President and the Philippine President. They met previously when Harris visited Manila in November of 2022. The Vice President hosting President Marcos at the Naval Observatory in May of 2023, a bilateral meeting on the sidelines of the East Asia Summit in Jakarta in September 2023, and a trilateral meeting with Japanese Prime Minister Fumio Kishida in Jakarta in September of 2023.
Dateline Malacañang.
Before we conclude our program, we would like to invite everyone to come and visit our Facebook page at Radyo Pilipinas World Service. You will be able to hear and view our Filipino and English programs, including news updates here in the Philippines. Kindly subscribe, like, and share our posts as well. And that concludes this edition of Dateline Malacañang in Review. For Radyo Pilipinas World Service, this is Leo Magpayo. Good day and stay safe.
From the Presidential Palace, Manila, Dateline Malacañang.